whatever part of your brain is supposed to be there to help you know or care about what's trendy and what looks good, I don't have it. I follow these people on Instagram and they'll like wear striped pants with plaid and it works. But if I did that, I would just look homeless. I don't know. I don't know how fashion people do what they do. So this is one of those occasions. And I've talked about this before where I said, I need to bring in an expert. I need someone to help me with this. And because God hears and answers even our most inane prayers, even the ones about fashion, it was at that time. I'm not kidding. I had just been saying, I wish I had someone to help me with this. We invite a friend over to dinner. He introduces me to his brand new fiance. I say, what do you do? And she says, oh, I'm a fashion consultant. I'm telling you, God answers our prayers for these things. So, she's Catholic. She's got our same worldview. And she does some great just talking and thinking and writing on this issue of how we can all, men and women alike, how we can all be more intentional in the way we dress and how that can change our lives. You can look her up at MeghanAshleyStyling.com. And I've got her here in studio to give us some tips. Again, men and women alike, people of all ages. Meghan, welcome back to the Jennifer Fulwiler Show.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
So
as a Texan.
I know, that's right. So you were living in France, right? Last time you came through. So you guys were actually living in a chateau in a small town in France. With to me, everyone in France lives in a chateau. Like if you live in a house, it's a chateau because everyone in France lives in a chateau. I've never been to France. So you were living in France and there were like vineyards nearby and like ancient monastery churches and
inside the Romanesque walls.
And now you live in this hellscape of Austin, Texas, where it's like 105 degrees. Yeah. Why?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I know you're asking yourself in August. You're like, why did we do this to our lives? I could be in France right now.
From France to Texas, it's great. I mean,
she's lying.
as an LA girl, Texas kind of seems like another country to me in a very good way. So yeah, it's been wonderful being in Texas.
And Meghan, one of the things I love about you, you've lived in France and San Francisco and LA. So, I mean, you've lived in some real fashion capitals and you're Catholic as well. And I love how you blend these two things. I mean, when I first converted to Catholicism, I think I kind of thought that there was really no place for things like following fashion trends and, thinking about how you dress, like that's of the world and I'm letting go of the world. And it's like I was saying when I was opening the show that I actually came to realize I think there's something deeply Catholic about thinking about the way you physically present yourself. I would say even following fashion trends. I mean, this is what the world around us is doing. There's no harm in knowing what people are doing. It's like if I were to wear a medieval court jester's costume, it's like, that's weird. I mean, you need to dress like the people around you are dressing to some extent. And so do you find that in your work as a fashion consultant that it's kind of a natural fit with your faith?
Yeah, I mean, I think getting into my style, a lot of it is because I am Catholic. I think what you were touching on earlier about the intentionality of why we dress is super important. And also what you said, giving dignity to what you do or to where you're going. So like if you're getting married, your wedding dress has to reflect that. It would be undignified to wear, just like your ripped jeans. And so we should see our days as, our reason that we're here, like working for God. And so with that, like we have to be dignified in how we're dressing and put reason and thought behind everything we do. Not to be overly scrupulous, but, to be very intentional with everything we're doing it with God, for God. And there's no reason why you can't incorporate culture and trends and have fun.
Yeah. And people can actually hire you. I mean, when you and I worked, you were living in France. So people who live anywhere in the country can work with you. They can work with you remotely. MeghanAshleyStyling.com. They can look you up, Meghan Ashley Styling on Instagram. And yeah, that I have found this. So since I worked with you, and I talked about this on the show before you were on. And by the way, I mean, I was a paying client. I want to make it clear, we didn't like trade services for me to promote you on the show. This was a personal thing that I did for myself. And one of the things I have found is that since I have revamped my wardrobe to be a very intentional wardrobe in the sense that I really put thought into every piece. And I put thought about what message does this send to people about me. Now, when I get up in the morning, most days, this is not every day, but I do kind of think, what's my mission for today? Maybe today is like a casual day. I'm not meeting with anyone. It's just like, get the job done, get through your 150 emails. And so I'll wear something that's kind of comfortable, but has kind of a get it done, tough sort of look to it. Or like today, you came to my office and we had a little lunch, and you're going to be here on the air. So I wore kind of a silky top that I like. And I will say, Meghan, I never used to do that. I was always one of those people who just grabbed whatever thing was in my closet and I put it on. And honestly, and this is why I'm talking about this on the air, because I think this can be very impactful for both our male and our female listeners, to have that sense of intentionality about what you wear and bring it into your sense of mission. Let me come at this actually, Meghan, from a different angle. When I used to think nothing about what I wore each day, just grab whatever I saw in the closet, it was just kind of part of me going through my morning, kind of letting life happen to me, I guess you could say. And there was no plan. It was like, I don't know, I'm exhausted. I guess I'll brush my teeth and throw on this outfit and see what happens, Whereas now, ever since I worked with you and started really thinking about clothing and the way it impacts your life, I actually pause because I don't want to just grab anything from my closet. And so I actually think through my day and I say, who am I going to see today? What's the tone I want for today? Again, is it like a work, get it done day? Or is it like a family fun day? Like I'm taking the kids to go do something. And how can what I dress reflect what I want to happen today? And for people who have never done that, it sounds like kind of a silly thing, but it has honestly changed my life to have that moment of pausing and saying, what can I wear to reflect my mission this day? It actually gets me thinking about mission and what I want out of the day and what I hope happens. It's a transformative thing. And I bet you see this in your clients all the time, right, Meghan?
Yeah, it is. It's great, I think, to have a reflective nature to it, to getting dressed in the morning. And a plus of, if you love everything in your closet, you know that there's a reason for everything.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't take as much thought as you need if you just work on it a little bit in the beginning to get it kind of going. But it definitely changes how you go about your day. If you're wearing like a blazer and polished outfit, you're going to act a little more professional and be really on the ball for your meetings. If you're wearing a fun dress, like maybe you're going on a date night with your husband, or, you're doing something a little more, I don't know, fun and lighthearted. Yeah, it definitely affects you. And I think you just have to kind of like sit back for a moment and think about what you're wearing. But I think the thing is, like, we don't really sit back and think about our clothes because I think we think it's too vain, or like, really? Like, that might be too, like, that's for like people who are too into themselves.
Or I've had people say, I've heard, like a friend of my mom's at one point a long time ago, she was saying, well, I'm 65 now. I mean, that's for you young girls. Like you girls, play those games. That's not for me. And I think that really shows that the dumb messages from our culture that have gotten immersed in the fashion world, that there are some people who misunderstand what fashion is for, what it's about. Like, it's all about being sexy or getting attention. And yeah, those ideas are out there, but they're stupid. And that's not what, fashion and being intentional about the way you dress has ever been for. Again, like that moment when Joe was wearing his ratty shorts and t-shirt and ran into a client. He didn't care about looking sexy for his client, I assure you. But he did realize, like, this is sending a message. Every single thing you wear sends a message. And this isn't the message that I want to be sending with the way I look. And so that's what I would say if I could go back to that conversation with my mom's friend who said, well, I just passed 65, so I don't know that that I'm at an age where I really need to be thinking about fashion. I would say, no, I don't care if you're 95. I mean, actually, Meghan, I saw a woman who I was introduced to at a kid's event. A kid's great grandmother came, and I was informed later she was 93 years old. This woman looked so put together. She looked like she was like the queen of the world walking in there. She had a very tastefully, like a tailored jacket. It had like some sequins on it, and she had tailored pants on. This woman shut down that room at 93 years old, and she just looked so elegant and dignified. And it just goes to show that fashion is not only is it not a young person's thing. I mean, I think at any age it is equally important. And again, this is something our Catholic religious orders understand, the saints understood, that, you know, you can improve not just the way you come across to other people, but the way you think about yourself, you know, when you really put some thought into what you wear.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, my husband and I were at a dinner, a really nice church event dinner, and there was this elderly man. He was probably like maybe up to 90. He was there by himself in the most like perfect suit and tie, and it was so endearing. And just I love that he had like such a, I don't know, something came across in that he wore his like best suit. And I mean, he didn't have a wife with him, so, you know, it probably took him a little bit extra time to really get ready and show that he wanted to be there, like with everyone around, with his church community. And it was just so sweet. And I think there's something that people of that generation have with clothes that we don't really have right now.
Yes. It's like how our grandparents, at least my grandparents' generation, for example, my grandfather would never get on a plane without a coat and tie, you know, like the nice suit and his hat and everything. Yeah. And it used to bother him that my dad would just wear a button-down shirt and slacks. My grandfather was like, "Oh, wow. I just don't know if that's, you know, really okay." But yeah, I do think that generation understood something that we have lost, which is at any event you show up to, whether it is a lunch, whether it's church, whether it's a fundraiser, honestly, whether it's even going to the grocery store, you send a signal about how much you care about this place and this event by what you wear. So for example, you know, none of us really care about grocery shopping, you know, so it's fine. You know, we wear our workout clothes, whatever, it's fine. But let's say, you know, you show up at someone's funeral in that same outfit, that is not cool. I mean, in fact, it could seem like you are intentionally trying to disrespect the deceased if you show up in your workout gear to a funeral. And that was actually, like I said, Meghan, that was what kicked off my husband's own kind of journey, I guess you could say, to rethinking the way he dresses when he saw that guy at Mass and said, "Wow, this is interesting. It actually uplifts me. Even though I don't even know this guy, but it just inspires me to be in this building with someone who cared enough to go the extra mile in terms of how he dressed." So that's another thing, is when we dignify ourselves by wearing clothes that we are inspired by, appropriate to the occasion, we also send a signal to whatever room we're in about how happy or not happy, you know, we are to be there, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, and so people can look you up at MeghanAshleyStyling.com. You do consulting. People can work with you. Again, you're Catholic, so you've got that great Catholic perspective. And another thing I will say, and it's why I'm talking about this and why I actually think it's kind of an important subject. Another thing that has come up for me in the past when I've started thinking about styling is I'll say, well, I don't know if it's worth investing time and effort in this because I don't see anyone, you know. I mean, now I've got this little studio, but it's like, it's a solo office studio. I mean, I don't see a lot of other people in my work. And before that, I worked from home, and I was mainly staying home with kids. And I told my husband a couple of years ago, I told Joe, I said, I never see anyone ever. So I don't know if it's really worth me doing that much with my fashion. But then that I realized, like, I don't think the answer there is, you know, not revamp my wardrobe. I think the answer is like, maybe there's a problem here. Like, maybe that is not healthy. I thought through it. I was like, I have not spent more than 5 minutes with an adult other than my husband at that time, it was probably like 22 days or something. Because that is it. Let me tell you, when you stay home with kids, and if you have multiple young kids, that is your life. Because it is so hard to go anywhere. You don't even want to do play dates. Like in the summers, it's too hot outside to like meet people at the park. You go weeks without encountering another adult other than your spouse. And so it's easy to just be like, well, why should I change out of my pajamas? And it was a revelation for me when I realized that thinking about my wardrobe and the fact that I didn't have anyone to bless with, my style, was like, I realized I need to change something about my life, because it's not healthy to be this isolated, that there's no need to dress up because I never see anyone. And so, Meghan, in the work that you do with your MeghanAshleyStyling.com, your consulting and everything, do you find that sometimes when you're working with clients, you're asking them questions about, what is your vision, and how do you want to dress, that it actually ends up unearthing other, kind of problems in their lives that it gives them an opportunity to address?
Right. I mean, a lot of women that I work with are, probably from 50 to 60 years old, and their kids have just gotten out of the house, and it kind of gives them a moment to think like, okay, wait, my kids are out of the house. Now it's me and my husband, and it's kind of like a time of reflection for themselves. Like, now I have time to focus on myself. I've been giving my, everything to my children. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of like you figure out, more of who you are. And a lot of stuff comes up. But it's not like, a lot of stuff comes up. It's exciting, maybe more so like a lot of stuff to look forward to, because they imagine their life in the future in a better light, maybe more, I don't want to say better light, but just a very positive, just excitement, because you are at that more reflective, like, okay, let me like take a, what do you call it? A summary, like checklist of like who I've been the last 20 years, and now like kind of position myself for my retirement, and
this is okay. You bring up such a great point, and I really want our listeners to tune in and think about this. Every single one of us goes through a change in seasons, change in phase of life, like going from single to being married. I know you got married less than a year ago, right?
Yep.
So that was a big change in your life, going from being a single woman to a married woman. And then people go from, being someone without kids to having kids in some cases. And then for me, so we had 6 babies in 8 years. So for me, for a decade of my life, it's baby city all the time. Like, I spent years having 3 children in diapers at once. Like, all I knew for a decade was screaming little people who poop themselves, and I have to deal with it. And and it was great. Sometimes, it was really difficult. I'm not going to lie about that. I mean, it's lovely. I love my family. My life is fantastic, but it was very hard. Let's face it. It was very hard. And so, but I got used to it. I mean, that's my life. Like, I have lots and lots and lots of little kids, and it's very loud and it's very crazy. And now my youngest child is 5.5. And you were just talking, I put him on Instagram stories, and he's so cute, but he's 5.5. And I cannot overstate how different this is for me to have older kids and to not have babies. And I always said, I was like, I'm not going to be that person who is wistful and sentimental about having babies and little ones. Like, if this just like sucked the life out of me, and I'm going to be so glad to have older kids. But I am finding, Meghan, it is really hard for me actually to say. I mean, by the way, I say this like I'll get a positive pregnancy test tomorrow, like guarantee, as soon as I say this. But that probably, I have a medical issue, so we probably should not have more biological children. You never know what God's plans are, but there is a fair chance that this will be our youngest child. We will not have other babies in the house. And I will admit, this has been very hard for me, much harder than I thought it would be, to be like, this is it. I will not probably have babies of, that I gave birth to or adopted or whatever it is in the house. And so one of the things that really helped me about working with you, to take it back to style, was that it helped me see the advantages of my new season, because the reality is, some of the clothes that you helped me buy, that you were working with me with, it just wouldn't have been realistic for me to buy those fabrics. I bought a couple of dry clean only pieces, which feels so exotic. I would have spent $500 a month on dry cleaning if I had dry clean only pieces 5 years ago, when I had 6 kids and the oldest was 9. I mean, that nothing would have made sense about that. So that was one of the reasons why I did lots of cottons, lots of knits, because I could throw it in the washer and get it clean. So all this is to say, for men and women alike, we all have changes in seasons. Maybe it's retirement. Maybe it's like you said, you work with a lot of women who have recently become empty nesters. And I think with every change in season, it's always a little hard. It's always like, wow, that phase of my life is really over. Like, I will never have that again. And that's hard. But changing the way you dress to fit your new season, to say, hey, you know what? There are things that I can wear now that I couldn't wear in that past season. Again, like if you're having a hard time with retirement, saying, you know what? I used to have to wear a suit every day, and now I can do some cool, like casual chic stuff and do that. It can be a really positive way to embrace your new season. And so do you see that with your clients, that they're like, okay, I was a little sad, maybe like you said about the kids going off to college or whatever, but oh, this is actually kind of fun. Like I have some time now to shop. I'm not like in the car line every day, all day, right?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of women definitely start to have a lot more fun with it. Initially, when we get started, people talk to me about like some adjectives they want to use to describe themselves and kind of what they're going for. But as it evolves after a few months, I think they kind of are the ones steering it in a little bit, because they're just so excited and they want to be pushed a little bit more. And it kind of, I mean, if you think about like fashion is art, like it should be something that
fashion
we enjoy.
is art. I like that.
Yeah, we can definitely have a lot of fun with it. But also a big goal of mine is, and for my clients, for them, is to make sure that their wardrobe isn't too much time, so that getting dressed is like a snap. So you don't have to think about anything. So you have all the information to easily just like pop on an outfit and feel great and feel fun and look good. And yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing how you end up kind of sending yourself signals about, like, to use the example again of me just kind of struggling with my youngest child being 5.5. We're no longer the baby house, it's just what you get used to after a certain number of years. And when I open up my closet and I see all of these pieces that fit me, and that it's not just the cardigans that I used to wear, which I cannot overstate enough. It is all I ever wore. That I actually see some things that have a little bit of flair to them. And it's like, oh, that top is asymmetrical. Oh, that just feels so outrageous to me. And look at this silky little number. Like it's sending a message to myself, a very physical, tangible message that, like, hey, Jen, remember, we're excited about this. This is fun. There are cons, but there are also pros of not being spit up on every 3 minutes. And so I think you really can kind of send yourself a signal. And this is why I recommend, I know a lot of people are just having a tough time right now for different reasons. Maybe it's with everything that's going on in the church. Maybe they're taking care of an elderly loved one. Maybe they've got a medical crisis, whatever it is. I think a lot of times when we're struggling, it's easy to kind of get in the mentality of telling ourselves, well, I definitely can't think about the way I dress right now. Absolutely not. But I would actually say from my own experience, the opposite is true. Because when I've been through difficult struggles, like after my 6th child was born, he had medical issues, I had medical issues. It was a terrible time. And I ended up snowballing where I didn't care at all about my physical appearance. I mean, barely brushed my hair, didn't do any of the things I enjoy. Like, I enjoy putting on makeup, things like that. I didn't do any of that. And what I found, Meghan, is it turned into a vicious cycle where it was like I would look at myself in the mirror and just feel like I could tell from my physical appearance, like I looked like I didn't care. And then it makes me feel like I don't care, and I caught myself snowballing. And when I started to take efforts to say, you know what, even though I'm struggling, even though this is a dark time, I'm not really in a great place mentally or spiritually, I am going to put my best effort into the way I look. It actually did a surprisingly powerful job of changing my spirits. And I bet you see that with your clients.
Yeah, definitely their mood starts to change. And I know for myself, like if I feel I'm more presentable that day, and kind of put some time into getting dressed, not too much time, but I get dressed, and how do you say it? I take the time to get dressed, but not overly time. You care about it.
Right. Yeah. Because, by the way, because this with anything, of course, it can be a distraction. It can waste your time. So, we're not talking about like gazing at yourself in the mirror for an hour.
Yeah. Okay, just clarification.
Yeah.
But it's a definite mood booster. I mean, and that's great to be more productive in your day.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in a better mood, you're going to be a little more charitable.
Right.
And you're also just going to be more productive. You're going to have a little boost of energy. So, I mean, just use it. It's hard to be, we want to be saints. So let's use everything we can do to.
That's a great point. Yeah. Like, why not use every tool in your tool belt to be the person who God means for you to be a saint. All right, Meghan, I am actually so into this conversation that I forgot to take the break that I was supposed to take. Let's take a quick break. Use the break to look up Meghan Ashley. You can follow her on Instagram at Meghan Ashley Styling, or look her up at MeghanAshleyStyling.com. She does virtual work with people all over the country. You can work with her like I did. I really can't emphasize, like, Meghan really did change my life by helping me think about what I wear, how I dress. And I'm going to talk about a couple other details that you should be able to apply to your life today to improve how you feel through the way you dress, up next here on the Jennifer Fulwiler Show. Right now, we are with Meghan Ashley of Meghan Ashley Styling. You can follow her on Instagram, Meghan Ashley Styling. Follow me there as well. I'm Jennifer Fulwiler on Instagram. And you can look her up at MeghanAshleyStyling.com. So, Meghan, I want to jump in with something I was thinking during the break. Here's a short summary of what some of the points I was making at the beginning of the show. I really believe that you rise to the level of your clothes. You rise to the level of your clothes. And here's what I mean by that. I used to say, I can't wear anything other than cotton t-shirts and jeans because, I have all these babies and I need things that I can just throw in the washer and, get all the spit up stains out. And there's some truth to that. I mean, obviously you have to dress in a way that's appropriate for your life. But even when the kids started getting older, not so many kids in diapers anymore, I just kind of was in that habit. And after I worked with you and I started getting some nicer, like some dry clean only pieces, or pieces that like I would actually have to kind of hand wash or deal with if I get stains on them, I had this moment of revelation where I was like, maybe I should try to be less of a slob. Like, maybe I shouldn't eat like a pig at the trough at the dinner table. Like, maybe I should actually have some table manners and like not stuff food into my mouth like I'm on the professional eating circuit. And this sounds stupid, but it honestly like improved my table manners, that I used to just eat like a hog. And I would sometimes spill stuff on myself, but I'd be like, oh, it's fine. I'll just throw it in the washer. And then when I actually, like, if I have on a white silk shirt, it's like I can't do that anymore. And so I actually kind of started eating more like a lady out of my laziness. Meghan, I was like, I don't want to deal with getting the meatball stain out of this white shirt. So I think I will actually get a fork and a knife and cut it up because I'm too lazy to clean this shirt. But I mean, do you see that with your clients, that you rise to the level of your clothes,
I definitely agree. I think, you're going to put a little more effort into how you even care for yourself.
Right.
You have these nice clothes. You want to, eat healthy and not like vanity wise, but, put good nutrition in yourself. And, you do rise. It's funny. Even before I came, I was making a green juice and I was like, oh no, should I change my top? Because I don't want to get like splatter on it.
Yeah, green juice.
But then I was like, well, maybe Meghan, just be careful. Like,
right.
Be a wild animal in the kitchen.
Exactly. By the way, this is a little bit of an aside, but I used to think of aprons as this like, oh, that's the man trying to keep women down in the house. And now I'm like, oh, they're like the 1950s and the 40s and 30s and 20s women who wore aprons. They were geniuses. I mean, what they were essentially doing is they were wearing nice clothes in the kitchen, but they just didn't want the nice clothes to get dirty.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like, I'll show the man. Like, I would just dress like a slob in my kitchen all the time. Like, look at this. This is a ratty shirt from 20 years ago and it has holes in it. So the patriarchy can't keep me down. When really, like, I see the genius of our great grandmothers and our grandmothers who were like, I think I choose to dress elegantly and I'll just wear an apron so that if I splatter things on it, it's not getting on my clothes. So I will say I also have a new appreciation for aprons now that I'm actually kind of dressing more nicely. So Meghan, one of the things I was looking at the questions that you asked me when I worked with you. Mm-hmm. And again, I want to be clear. I was a paying client, sought you out for personal reasons. This wasn't like, trade for you to be on the show. I'm only having you on the show because working with you changed my life so much. So you said you were asking one of the questions, your questions are so good when you work with your clients. You said, what is the outfit that you disliked most? Like when you think of something that you wore that you disliked most? What was it? Okay, so I want our listeners to think of this, okay? When you're driving, you guys are driving around or you're listening at home on the app, think about this. Think of an outfit that you wore that you really disliked. Like you're like, oh, I just hate that. Think about what it was. Now, it's interesting to think about why. Why did you dislike it? So my answer to you might not remember this, but I have the email up. You do? Okay, yeah. What did I say? Yes.
Yep, your purple dress.
Okay, it was my wedding dress. Okay. Yeah, no, I will say. So people who've listened to the show for a while know, Joe and I, we got married in a theater and I wore a dark purple dress and we wrote our own vows. We were not Catholic at the time. And I wanted to have this totally non-religious wedding. That was my big thing. I was like, I'm not going to borrow from Judeo-Christian tradition. So I wore a purple dress, and it actually wasn't the purple that I look back that bothers me. It just, the cut wasn't right for me. There was nothing good about it. That is not the style of dress that I should have worn. But what it shows is that I was a little bit lost in terms of my mission for this event. Like the only thing I cared about with my wedding was like sticking it to Christians. Like I just wanted it to be a non-religious wedding, but I didn't know what I did want from it. And so I ended up with a dress that was just kind of it didn't mean anything to me. I don't care about my wedding dress because I didn't know where I was going with this event. I didn't know what I did want. I knew what I didn't want, but I didn't know what I did want. And I think we find this sometimes, Meghan, when you end up wearing one outfit, or maybe just in a phase of your life, you're just constantly wearing things that you're looking at it like, oh, I hate this. Like I hate the way I look. Very often you've become a little aimless. Like you're just not sure what you're doing, like where you're going in life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's great to take apart, like look at that outfit, really try and find one, and ask yourself why you didn't like it, because it'll say a lot.
Yep.
Like if you feel like your skin is crawling when you're wearing it, like that's perfect. Now grab it and dissect it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember an outfit that I did not like. And I remember actually there was a bag of Salvation Army clothes in the back seat, and I ended up changing like midday just because but it told me a lot about like my body type, what looked good on me, and also my personality, where I didn't like to wear something that just didn't suit me. Right.
Yeah, and that's another question you ask, another one that I will share with our listeners. So think about this. How do you want others to view you? How do you want people to see you? This was another one that really, I really was thinking about this because I was looking at pictures of myself at the time, and I thought, when I see the person in these pictures, this person looks, I mean, to be honest, just kind of frumpy, kind of, just not a force, like not a take charge person. And I thought, that's not who I want to be. Like I had recently discerned some exciting things, and I thought, yeah, I've got a mission here. Like I want to be getting out there and sharing these cool things with people. And, when I see the person in the picture who just looks very passive and, frumpy, I mean, just to be honest, in some of these pictures I was seeing, I thought, this just isn't who I feel like I am. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the name of the game here. When we revamp our wardrobes, when we become more intentional about what we're wearing, to say, I'm going to come up with a very specific vision of how I want people to understand me, and I'm going to have my clothes match that, right?
Yep. I mean, even that, there's a lot of fashion quizzes, style quizzes, companies that cater clothes to you. But for me as a stylist, that is like one of the top questions to know, is like the adjectives that you want to describe yourself as. I mean, just knowing that, you can pretty much go shop and hit the mark.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I like what you said about mission. This is like kind of like off, but if you even think of like knights going into battle, a special crest on them, and there was a lot of thought into like how they're appearing, and I just think we've kind of lost touch with that.
I agree. Yeah, no, I love that vision of knights going into battle. Every army, every force ever. Like even, if you look at the suffragettes, the early feminists, I mean, they all had a very specific way that they presented themselves. And so I think that it's such an important topic. I really want people to look you up at MeghanAshleyStyling.com. People can work with you as a style consultant. And again, you bring that great Catholic perspective as well, in addition to having lived in LA and Los Angeles and San Francisco and France. So you've got the great fashion perspective and also the great Catholic perspective. And Meghan, we're about out of time. Final quick comment is, in the Catholic world, in the Christian world, when we're thinking of our daughters or our granddaughters, we definitely want to encourage them to dress, I hate to use this word, but, modestly, like just not let it all hang out. Yeah. But I think it's important to convey to our young women that modest does not mean frumpy. Modesty is really about telling our young women to respect their God-given dignity, right?
Yeah, and you want to clothe as best as possible.
Right.
So.
It's like you're a daughter of the king, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not about, you'll read modesty things that are about you don't want to tempt men. And it's like, well, I guess that's nice to think of, the young men like to, not cause them a struggle and temptation. But really, it starts with clothing yourself as a daughter of the king. And it starts, and actually, Meghan, this is a great place to end because this is true for our young women. This is true for our male listeners. And this is true for our female listeners of all ages. The way you dress, fashion, it all starts with honoring your dignity as a son or daughter of the king and dressing, like you said, Meghan, knights going into battle as someone, like reflecting the battle that you have been called to fight. That will be different for different people, but it's like wearing your uniform for the battle that you've been called to fight, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, Meghan, we are about out of time. Tell us again where people can find you online if they want to work with you, sign up for your email list, whatever it is. Tell us where they can find you.
You can subscribe to my blog at meganashleystyling.com. I'm also on Instagram. And I also have a fashion essentials closet checklist that you can download on my blog. And it's a nice little mini magazine for you to get all the essentials you need to build a versatile and fun wardrobe.
Oh, fashion essentials checklist. I love it. So that is at meganashleystyling.com. Meghan, this has been such a fun chat. I'm so glad you've been here, and we can't wait to chat with you again soon.
Can't wait.
All right, take care. And we will be back with more right after this here on the Jennifer Fulwiler Show.
And now back to the Jennifer Fulwiler Show, a family-friendly show.
I have my children here. Let's start with Lucy Fulwiler. Lucy, it's been a while since you've been on the show. How are you?
Good, I'm good.
And we have Kate making cat calls in the background. Exactly. Remember when I said don't do anything weird on Mommy's radio show?
Yeah.
We never said a normal family-friendly show.